Hello guys, welcome to this short tutorial on how to create a database within your Workbench if you are a new learner and you have never used Workbench before. Remember, Workbench is a client. It's used to communicate with the server. So you write your SQL or your SQL commands within the Workbench, and these instructions will be transferred because you have a connection with the server. The server is where the database is located, and because you have a connection with this server, the server will take these instructions from your Workbench, which is a client, and execute these instructions within your database within the server. And obviously, your server is within our local computer in this scenario. But remember, the server could be in the cloud, it could be in another computer somewhere, and you need to connect to the server using maybe HTTPS or any other connection protocol. In our case, our server is found in our computer and our client as well is found in our computer. So let's open MySQL Workbench. Remember, I've already created our server and I've configured the server. And what do we mean by configuring our server? Is simply creating credentials which can be used to access or to create a link with the server, similar to your email address, right? You create an email, you create a password, and if you give anyone this email and password, they can have access to your email, right? It's the same thing. You create a server, which is a location within your computer where the database will be stored, and this server, obviously, because it's SQL, it can understand the SQL language, and it only understands the SQL language. And this server is waiting for requests from any client, right? And the request, and in order for a client to send a request to the server, it needs a connection with the server, and it needs that configuration or the credentials to the server. In this case, I already have connections to the server, and let me quickly delete all of these connections. So delete all of these connections so that it's similar to your first time of opening maybe MySQL Workbench. Imagine you have already installed your server and you have already created the configurations and the credentials for your server. And when you install MySQL Workbench, you have this page and you have to create a connection to the server. So I click on the plus button and I can call this a test connection. And again, the server is found in my local computer with the host name 127. That's our local host, our local IP address. And the port in which I created this server was 3306 during the configuration of the server. The username which I created when configuring the server was the root username. And obviously, the password, let me test the connection. If I try to test this connection, it will ask for a password because when creating the server, I created a password to be able to connect to this server. So I'll put the password which I used when configuring my server. And you see it says connection successful. So I put OK and I put OK here. I will now create this connection to my server. If I open the server, the connection, you see my server already has a couple of databases which I've already created. So if you're new to this, you may not find any database. You may only find the SYS database, which is a system database created when you first connect to the server. You may not find these other databases. So in that case, remember the databases are under the tab schemas at below. If you do not find the databases, you may, when you open the workbench, you may be under the tab administration. Ensure that you switch to the tab schemas where you have all of the databases. And imagine you just have the SYS database and now you want to create your own database. First, the first time you open the database, you may also not find this query tab open. Let's say if this is closed and you just have an empty screen, remember you can go to your right hand side where you have the create new SQL tab. And if you click on it, this will create an SQL file. Remember, you need to write SQL commands so that the server can interpret these commands and do and execute the instructions you are giving it. So if you have the SQL file or the query file which was there before, you can now write your command to create your database. So yeah, the command is create database, which is our command to create our database. And let's give our database test 5. The database test 5, I already have a couple of test databases. If I highlight on this and I click on execute, you see I have the green tick here, meaning the database has been created. So, however, I cannot find the database here. So I need to refresh the schemas. And when I refresh the schemas, I can now find my database. Remember, within my schemas, there are a couple of databases. So I need to instruct the server that I want to focus my attention on the test 5 database. So I use the command use and the name of the database which I want to focus focus my instructions on. In this case, is test 5. And this tells the server that I am not interested in the other databases. I just want to execute commands within the test 5 database. And you're going to see what is going to happen if I highlight on this. And the reason I'm highlighting on this and not just executing is because if I execute this, SQL will execute the entire script from top to bottom. So it will still repeat creating the database, then later on using the database. But I do not want to execute this command anymore because I've already executed the command. So I highlight on the command I want to execute and I go to the execute, which is this almost like a lightning sign, and I click on it. And you see it executed again with a tick. And you see now this database has been highlighted in bold. This means the server is aware that it wants to actually use this database, right? So it's highlighted in bold, and now it has opened the database for us to start writing SQL commands to execute within this database. That said, I can now create a table within this database or do whatever I want to do within this database. Let's create a table, a test table. We'll just call it table 1. And we'll just have 2 features. Maybe let's call it, the first feature would be the ID, and we'll give it the integer data type, and let's make this our primary key, right? And we'll give it a second column or a second feature called name. Let's give it a varchar, and let's give it the size of 50. And let's ensure that this is not null. So this is our table. So our table will have two columns, an ID and the name, and the name of the table will be table 1, and we can execute this. I highlight on this again and I execute, and you see we have our green tick again, which says our table has been created. And we can go again and refresh our schema, and under our database test 5, you see we can click on tables, and you see that our table 1 is now found within our tables. But if you click on it, our table has no data. And let's check if our table actually has data. Remember to check if to retrieve data from a table, we use the select keyword. So if you put select star from table 1, we expect to see all of the data within table 1. If we execute this, we see that our table has no information. So you see null, null. So there is no data within our table, and you can now use the insert into command to insert data into that table. So this is how you create a database within your workbench and how you can run SQL queries within the workbench. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it.